Shocking new updates according to authorities in the Melodee Buzzard disappearance as family and law enforcement desperately search for this missing 9-year-old California girl. New allegations of fake wigs, switched license plates, a cross-state road trip have all eyes on Melodee's mother, Ashley. What these developments mean and what we can expect next, we're going to talk to a private investigator who specializes in these kinds of cases. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Now, by the way, we've been all over this Melodee Buzzard story since it began. We plan to be on it as it continues. We want to find answers. We want to find her. And the reason that we can stay on top of a story like this and really do a deep dive is because we get this amazing support from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Okay, I'm talking about America's largest personal injury law firm. Do you know why, by the way, they're so big, why they're a firm with over 1,000 attorneys? It's because they win a lot. They have recovered $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million when insurance offered just $350,000. Out in Pennsylvania, another client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's offer. Morgan & Morgan, they make it easy to fight for what you deserve. You can even start a claim from your phone. So if you're injured, you can start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar. You can click the link below or scan the QR code on screen. Melodee Buzzard. That is not only the name of this adorable 9-year-old girl out of California, described as 4 feet 6 inches tall, weighing 60 pounds, with curly brown hair, brown eyes, but it is a name that has now become synonymous with mystery, with questions, with frustration. Where is she? What happened to her? Melodee has been missing now for almost a month. She was first reported missing October 14th. This is when a Lompoc United School District administrator reported that they hadn't seen her since she was registered. There are a lot of questions that have been circulating about her mother, Ashley Buzzard, who reportedly was homeschooling Melodee at their place in Vandenberg Village. The problem with that is, as ABC previously reported, there was no record of Ashley filing an annual private school affidavit, which is mandatory for homeschooling. When authorities spoke with this mother, she apparently didn't provide an explanation of where her daughter was, and even reportedly became, quote, uncooperative in the investigation. And while it was initially reported that there hadn't been a verified sighting of Melodee in a long time, and she hadn't been photographed in 2 years, we now have some updates that we need to talk about. It is now being reported that Ashley took Melodee on a 3-day road trip back in October from Lompoc to Nebraska. ABC reporting that authorities say they believe Ashley drove through Green River, Utah, Panguitch, Utah, Northwest Arizona, Primm, Nevada, Rancho Cucamonga, California, and that surveillance video from October 7th allegedly shows this 9-year-old girl possibly wearing a wig inside of a rental car business out in Santa Barbara. In fact, it appears Ashley was wearing one too. The sheriff's office saying both Ashley and Melodee appear to be wearing wigs, with Melodee's appearing darker and straighter than her natural hair. And according to ABC, the last confirmed sighting of Melodee is October 9th. This is from surveillance video putting her with her mom near the Colorado-Utah border. And it is also believed that there was a return trip to Kansas as well. By the way, News Nation reporting that Melodee's aunt, Elizabeth Meza, told the outlet that she didn't know of any connection that Ashley or Melodee would have to Nebraska or Kansas. There's not a family connection. There's not a personal connection as far as she's aware. But not only that, it is also being reported by NBC and ABC that Ashley may have swapped the license plates on the rented white 2024 Chevy Malibu. That according to the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, the spokesperson, Raquel Zick, talking about this rented car for this road trip, Ashley allegedly removed the California license plate that read 9MNG101, and on October 8th, the Malibu had a New York license plate, HCG 9677. Now, it's not clear when this happened exactly or whether other plates were installed as well, but the allegation being, that has been asserted by authorities, is that this may have been a way to avoid being spotted. Zick saying it appears, quote, the license plate was switched to avoid detection. and that there's not any other plausible reason. But according to the sheriff's office, Ashley apparently returns back home to Lompoc October 10th, driving the Chevy, but Melodee wasn't with her. And when Ashley reportedly returned the car back to the rental business, it had the original California license plate back on. The sheriff's office, in a press release, stated, the sheriff's office is sharing a map of the vehicle stops and urges anyone in those communities to check surveillance and report relevant information. Detectives are seeking anyone who may have had contact with Ashley or Melodee at any point from October 9th to the 10th, 2025, or any video footage from their route of travel. So now we have a new timeline, even though there's no arrests that have been made, and there's still a lot of questions of what happened here, but this is a development. Now, I will tell you this, NBC is reporting that not only have authorities searched the Malibu, this car, and apparently a storage locker belonging to Ashley, but that the sheriff's office confirmed that Ashley's house has been searched by deputies and FBI agents. So this would mark the second time it was searched since the investigation began. The sheriff's office stating, a search of the residence confirmed that Melodee was not there. Ashley has remained uncooperative and has not confirmed Melodee's location or welfare. And as we previously reported, when it comes to Melodee's family, KSBY and USA Today report that relatives say Ashley cut off contact with this little girl for years. Melodee's aunt, again, Miss Meza, reportedly told USA Today, we haven't seen her in over 4 years due to the mother not allowing the family to see her, and that she only found out about Melodee's disappearance through Facebook. She describes Melodee as this sweet girl. Quote, she has a beautiful smile. She's very, very loving, very welcoming. She loved to be around her family. And by the way, Meza is Melodee's aunt on her father's side. So we're talking about Rubiel Meza, who apparently died when Melodee was just 6 months old in a motorcycle accident back in 2016. And this is when Ashley allegedly cut off contact with the family. This is according to USA Today. By the way, CPS has reportedly been in touch with Meza and her family about Melodee's disappearance. We don't have further information about that right now. But Melodee's aunt, Vicky Shade, told the LA Times, I am horrified for my little niece. I can't imagine what she's gone through. This does not sound good. I just want to know if she's okay. We need to find her. And the New York Post reported that Melodee's grandmother expressed concerns over Ashley's mental health, even explaining how police were called to the home at one point in the past and it was in just filthy condition. Quote, I couldn't believe it was my daughter. I mean, the house was in disarray. There were raw eggs in pans. There was rotten food in the fridge. I think she was trying to give my granddaughter. And when Melodee was a baby, she also apparently had to be taken in to Child Protective Services. By the way, there was reporting from outlets like SF Gate that indicates Ashley may have been going through a tough time too when all this is going on, that creditors were apparently trying to collect unpaid debts. This is according to court records that were reviewed by the outlet. So what do we make of all this? So I want to bring in Billy Lane right now, private criminal defense investigator, founding member of We Are the Essentials. It's a group of former law enforcement and military service members who use their skills to locate missing people, does incredible work. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is a case that's getting more distressing, more strange. It's hard to understand what happened here. Let's start with the road trip. Your thoughts on this? I mean, how much does that complicate things now?
It complicates a lot of things because now we're dealing with a vast, large area that law enforcement's got to cover and consider possible camera sightings, locations that the car could have stopped, where she could have got out of, and why did she go there to begin with? Reports now has it that Melanie actually came back with her to a certain area, and law enforcement still trying to piece together this puzzle, and it's very hard. There's a lot of deception going on here by the mother.
Well, that's the thing, right? It'd be different to have a case where someone disappears in one state, in one neighborhood, in one house. Now, if you're going from state to state, and yes, they can kind of track a little bit where Melodee was, at least until October 9th, there's something that happened in that day, right? There's something that happened when Ashley comes back without Melodee. You know, I will tell you this much, the sheriff's office said, quote, investigators are working to fill gaps in the timeline for that date and are working with law enforcement agencies in Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and Southern California for assistance in reaching the members of their communities. What does that mean? How does that work?
Well, at this point, they're just trying to reach out to everybody to see if anybody has seen Melanie. And that's the most important thing at this point. They're trying to find out if there's any footprints of her, digital footprints, physical footprints of where she's been. And the other fact that you're dealing with here is mom is trying to conceal her identity. She's wearing wigs, she's wearing hoodies. So this is going to be quite challenging. I think that your digital footprint here is going to be one of the most important things. And there again, did mom take her phone with her? Did she have another cell phone? There's methods to be used, even if it's not her cell phone, that they can track a cell phone in those areas and try to identify which direction those phones are moving in, and not to mention the car itself.
I'll get to the license plate in the cars in a second, but the wig, right? So they say that not only was she allegedly wearing a wig, but so was Melodee. I mean, what's going on there?
It's intentional deception for some reason. The question is, why is she being deceptive? What's going on? Is she trying to cause harm to Melanie? Is she feel like she is being followed? Is there some type of psychosis going on here with mom? There's no telling at this point until somebody can sit down with mom and try to get an interview out of her. We're not going to know. We're just going to have to assume the worst here. And the worst is that Melanie may no longer be with us.
But the surveillance footage helps because now we have a relatively recent, sort of image of what Melodee looks like, right? We've always seen this photo of her, this adorable photo of her with the curly hair that's been circulating. There weren't a ton of photos. Now we at least have a sense of what she looked like. I wonder if that could help people look for her, find her, see her in some way. I mean, the surveillance footage could be key here.
The key word there is looked at that moment, October 9th, or whenever the surveillance video captured her. Mom seems to have this need to continue to change the disguises and change everything. So mom may have seen her picture on the news. Mom may have changed her look totally from there. So we only have to be able to go back to that date and use that picture for anybody that remembers her during that time frame. But like I said, today she may be wearing a blonde wig. She may be wearing a red wig. She may be in a different type of hoodie of some types. It's concealment, and it's certainly intentional at this point.
Talk to me about the alleged switching of the license plates. I mean, you hear authorities saying that that is intentional deception. Why switch it from California to New York back to California, right? That's the allegation. We don't know if there were other plates. And where would someone get a spare plate?
So, Jesse, the important thing with the license plate reader is she is consciously aware that there are cameras that picks up the plates as she drives down the roads. So she took and put another plate on there to deceive law enforcement from realizing that's her vehicle that she's driving. They know what vehicle it is. They know what the tag is based on the information provided by the rental company. She's aware of that too. So she somehow obtained another license plate, not sure how, and put it on the car. So that way, if law enforcement is trying to track her through those license plate reader cameras, it's going to pick up a different tag because the system works on numbers, tag numbers. So if I put in the tag number, it may, and they can also work on vehicles too, but it's primarily based on the tag number. There's a potential to try to search the vehicles, but that's a secondary search. So she intentionally did this because she did not want them to track her movement in that vehicle.
I am struggling to come up with a benign explanation for why somebody would switch license plates like this. But you hear law enforcement say that it was a deliberate effort to avoid detection. I mentioned before that they've conducted a search of the storage locker that was apparently associated with Ashley and the Chevy Malibu. What does a search like that consist of? What do they do?
I think at this point they're looking for DNA. I think they're looking for fingerprints, physical evidence, blood, anything that would lead them to believe that Melanie has been harmed and is no longer possibly with us. That's very big in law enforcement. If you could show that there's enough of blood that Melanie could no longer be here, then now you have a homicide case. And this has happened many times before in some of the cases that we worked. Law enforcement's already done an arrest for homicide, even though they don't physically have the missing person yet.
And why the second search of her home with the addition of FBI, by the way?
It could lead from new clues that they located. They could be looking for something different than they did the first time, or primarily they could just miss things. It happens all the time. There's times when law enforcement will serve more than one search warrant because maybe the scope is different now. Or they did miss something and they realized that and they said, you know what, we need to go back and take a second look at that because I do remember that, but we really didn't home in on that. So those are the issues you deal with when you're got a case of this magnitude that's constantly changing by the hour and by the day.
I want to read you something. So I mentioned the FBI is a part of this. The FBI today put up a post about Melodee Buzzard, a missing person post. I'm going to read it to you. It's on FBI, at FBI Most Wanted. The FBI continues to search for missing and at-risk 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard, last seen via video surveillance on October 9th, 2025, in the region between the Colorado-Utah border. Originally living in Lompoc, California, law enforcement authorities are seeking any information about Melodee's whereabouts or condition. A photo of Melodee, seen with her mother while traveling, is being released, as is a map of the locations on their suspected route. So first, let me ask you, now that this is being provided, do you anticipate more people are going to be coming forward?
Absolutely.
What information?
I pray that people come forward. I pray that, if you even think you've seen them, you need to contact the FBI and let them know. It's very important at this point. They're still trying to put together these pieces. Is this a crime? Will there be an arrest? Will there be an indictment? But until then, they have to put the pieces together. The FBI investigate crimes, then they charge, where local police sometimes will arrest and then investigate the crime. So for the FBI, they want all of their parts together before they move forward. And the most important thing at this point, besides the criminal charge, is where is Melodee at? Where is she at, and what can they do to try and bring her home as soon as possible or prevent the worst case scenario?
Can you also emphasize how significant it is that the FBI is part of this search, and what resources they can bring to a search like this?
The FBI sort of supercharges these type of searches. They have a lot of resources, a lot of analysts. They have a lot of people who can put together data. You have to understand we're dealing with multiple cell phone towers here from her traveling, multiple cameras. There's a vast amount of this evidence that you're going through. I would say discovery, but in this case, it's evidence that you're going through because you're trying to put together this jigsaw puzzle. And with them, they bring in all these extra resources. They bring in the power of federal subpoenas and search warrants. They bring in additional manpower through search teams. So they are the best of the best. And that's the reason that they're the top of the federal law enforcement agency.
But reading between the lines, what you're hearing from law enforcement and the FBI, it is possible that they may be considering Melodee is still alive, right? I mean, if they're asking for help trying to find her or information about what happened, because if they did think, if they had enough evidence to suggest that she was dead, would they make that announcement? Or is it possible they believe she might be with someone else, or she's in certain circumstances where she's, currently alive? I mean, I guess the question is, and we are praying that she's alive and well. We're praying that this doesn't lead to a conclusion like we've seen in so many other cases. Is it possible, reading between the lines from law enforcement, that they believe she might be in someone else's hands?
I believe at this point, you're going to have to assume that she is still with us and pray that she's still with us. You need to focus on your investigation to support that theory that she is still with us. I think at the point where they get to the point where they believe she's no longer with us, you're going to see an indictment, you're going to see evidence that supports that, and you're going to see maybe some handcuffs come out that fits mom.
Why no arrest at this point? And to be clear, right, she hasn't been officially charged. We're looking at some of the strange circumstances. To be clear, you don't necessarily have to assist law enforcement. You don't have to provide them information, but you can't lie. You can't obstruct. So unless she did that, right, if she just is refusing to cooperate, maybe not necessarily a crime, but why no arrest at this point? If it seems at this point she may have been, one of the last people to see Melodee until she disappeared. I don't, there's so much we don't know, but obviously there's a lot of eyeballs on Ashley. I mean, why no arrest at this point?
Like I mentioned earlier, federal law enforcement investigates and then they arrest. Where local law enforcement will arrest and then investigate. So they're putting all the pieces together. Eventually, if federal law enforcement is in charge of the arrest, which they may or may not be, it may be local law enforcement, they may go before a grand jury and get an indictment against her, or they may just get a warrant for her arrest based on some other charge, not possibly for harming her, but some other charge that they can use to leverage her to be cooperative in this investigation. That's the point right now. There's no force, nothing to force her to cooperate in this investigation. She's choosing not to. So that's concerning because now there's a lot of unanswered questions here. At some point, is the judge going, they're going to obtain an order from the judge to bring mom in there to have her to produce Melanie? I think that would be a great possibility, is to have some scenario like that, and then she could be held in contempt of court. But the other part of that coin is if they arrest her, they may miss out on an opportunity that mom will lead them to her. So that too, you have to think about. She is out, she's moving about. I guarantee you that there's some surveillance, there's some tracking of mom, and there's a great possibility that if she is still alive, mom may take her or law enforcement right to her, and that's what we pray.
It's interesting. And when I speak to you, the role of a private investigator, a criminal investigator, can be very useful to the family who are part of this. Why do I say that? Because News Nation reported that Melodee's aunt, who I mentioned before, Miss Meza, told Banfield that she hasn't been provided a lot of details on what's going on. Quote, "We spoke to the news girl who's been following it. She called and just let us know what was going on. But as far as detectives, we've called, left messages, and they haven't returned any calls, so we've been in the dark." Now, if that's true, is that unusual, Billy?
No, it's not, because at this point, law enforcement does not know who's involved and who's not. So you can't really give details out because this could be a family issue and somebody could be involved that you may be telling the details of the story to, in the case to. So you have to consider everybody's a suspect at this point, and you have to keep all your cards close to your chest when you're doing these types of investigations, and you have to move as expeditiously as possible to try. And if the other issue is that if you tell a family member, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to go talk to somebody else. And then next thing you know, the rumor mill starts. They will share that information. Before you know it, it may get back to mom, and this could potentially hurt the case. So there's lots of reasons that the law enforcement will not speak with family members. They won't speak with private investigators. They won't speak with search and recovery investigators. In these types of cases, this is a criminal case. This is a high-profile case. And at this point, I would assume it's all hands on deck.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Anybody with information is asked to contact detectives at 805-681-4150. But if you want to provide an anonymous tip, you can provide it online by calling 805-681-4171. So you can call or do it online. Let me also ask you this, Billy, as I mentioned that people calling in, this is a very high-profile story. There are people who are actively following it, people who are emotionally invested in this. How does law enforcement sort through credible tips versus tips that maybe useful, maybe go on a wild goose chase, maybe not credible? People call in for all sorts of reasons, but how do they sort through it? Because that feels like a monumental task in a case like this.
It is, and that's where the FBI brings their resources in with the manpower ability. But when it boils down to it, it's just good old-fashioned talking to people, going out and following these leads and these tips. And the most important thing is knowing what the facts of the case are to begin with. And that may be and is one of the reasons that law enforcement does not release these facts, because if somebody wanted to just call in and create a story and they knew some of the details of the case, they could potentially take law enforcement on this ghost hunt, which is just going to take them off the case itself. So boots on the ground, interviewing people, knowing the facts of the case, those are the things that's going to get you farther down the road when these people call in, tipsters call in, and individuals who believe they've seen her. But there again, that shouldn't prevent anybody from trying to call in. If you think you have, please call in, because at this point, we need everybody's tip.
Billy Lane, I hope everybody can check out We Are the Essentials. It's incredible work that you're doing. If anybody should ever be in need of your services, I hope they do go to you, because you're really doing such a service for so many. And I'm so happy to have your perspective on a case like this. And we just hope and pray that Melodee will be safely returned. We'll keep following it. Billy, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.